So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Very exciting to start the study, early morning study to understand better probably the most exciting and important opportunity we have throughout the year, which is all about Rosh Hashanah and holidays. And specifically this year I would like to focus and concentrate on understanding what we do or what is happening in the upper world that we activate throughout the blowing of the shofar, like specifically to deal with the blowing of the shofar. And tonight we are not going to deal a lot with the books that I said we are going to read from, but from the next time we're gonna need for sure Zohar Emor, which is volume 16. But not all the commentary is translated to English, so we are going to improvise a free translation of what is the part that is not translated. I highly recommended for the next time that we meet, which is next Monday, to read the section in Emor. It's start from verse 190 something. It's start with verse. Is the section that speaks about Rosh Hashanah. It's about the blowing of the shofar. It's 187. So let's start from verse 187. The reason why we go to the Zohar is because when you go to the Ari in Sha'ar HaKavanot, in article number 8 from the articles of Rosh Hashanah, when the Ari, this is the article when the Ari start to explain the blowing of the shofar. The Ari says that in this article, Yeva'er bo inyan hatkiot be'atzmam. In this article, we are going to explain the whole idea of the blowing of the shofar, what they are. And you know, when you read the Ari always, when he starts to explain something, it's always a concept. It's never the action. It's never a person. It's never the historical event. It's never everything that the Ari explained. He called it inyan. It's a concept. It's a whole idea that the Ari is going to explain. And another thing that the Ari is, another word that the Ari is using, is what they are. What does that mean? What is they are? What are the blowing? The blowing is blowing. You know, take a shofar, you blow. That's a blowing. You know, that's what there is to explain here. But from the Ari point of view, nothing that we do has any significance if there's no meaning or understanding of why we do and what we do. Because just doing doesn't mean anything. And the Rav was very, very clear about it. And the Ari continues and says, ואתה צריך לבאר בחינת התקיעות עצמם, שהן תשרת תשת תרה. The Ari is like going into like the details of like why there are sets of blowing of the shofar. Like we know that there are 3 sounds. You know, the tki'ah is the long one. The shvarim is the one that divided to 3. And the truah is the one that divided at least to 9 and more. But the 3 of them are packaged in sets. Like there is the Tki'ah, Shvarim, Truah, Tki'ah, which is a set of 4. There is the Tki'ah, Shvarim, Tki'ah, which is a set of 3. And there is Tki'ah, Truah, Tki'ah, which is a set of 3. And all of them we repeat them like few times in different sets. So the Ari here is telling us, Bechinat HaTki'ot Atzmam, there is an aspect of the blowing themselves. That's the literal translation of it, but again, it's an aspect. It's not just the sounds, or it's not just the voice that come out of the shofar. There is a whole understanding behind the order and how they come together, and this is what the Ari wants to explain to us. V'hinei kavanatam, and the Ari, not all the time the Ari said that, but the Ari is turning into the Zohar to tell us that that's where it's explained. you know, there's a, not every time the Ari is going to point into another section or another place in the Zohar that is explained. And he says, and they explained בספר הזוהר, בפרשת אמור, etc. סדרת עניינה, סדרה קדמה, סדרת עניינה. And it's explaining that section in Emor that started in verse 187 according to the Sulam commentary. ובדברינו אלו יתבאר לפניך דברי המאמר הנזכר היטב. And this article number 8, is going to explain very well what the Zohar explained in 187. So, for sure, if the Ari tells us, you know, that this section of the Ari explains the article, the section in the Zohar, so the first thing we want to go is to see and to study the section in the Zohar, because without understanding and that specific section in the Zohar, it's going to be very, very difficult to understand the Ari later on, because it's based on it. On the other hand, we know that the Zohar is very, the way the Zohar teaches, it's a very hidden way. The Zohar uses all kind of code names and a short way to explain things. So it's a little bit confusing, because what the Ari did, like historically and practically, the Ari explained the Zohar. The Ari came after the Zohar, like about 1400 years after the Zohar, and explains the Zohar. Like if any one of us, or if anyone before the Ari would read the Zohar, they would have a certain understanding about the Zohar, but only with the Ari we have really understanding about the Zohar. But thank God we have Rav Ashlag, and we have Rav Banban and the Rav that explains also the Zohar and explain for us also the Ari. So now we have the Zohar and the Ari all even more explained than they are. So the Ari, I'll just start to read from the Zohar and more. It's verse 187. And you can, if you have the English translation, I'll do like a very fast and free translation of the section. The Zohar says, the Zohar is quote a verse called B'chodesh HaShvi'i B'echad LaChodesh. The verse is speaking about the first day of the seventh month, which we know this is Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yitzchak Patach. There is the discussion started with Rabbi Yitzchak that is quoting another verse from Tehillim, from Psalm, that says, Tik'u b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu, that we should blow in the month shofar. We should blow in the shofar in a month, in a certain month. It doesn't say which month. B'kesel yom chagenu. Like in the English translation, I don't know why, translate the word b'kesel, the 15th of the month, the middle of the month, which is for sure not the meaning of the word bakese. I don't know why it's translated like that. But the word bakese in Hebrew actually it's not really a usual word. And that's what happened many times when the Bible is translated, when there is a word in Hebrew in the Bible that it's not a usual word. They try to figure it out, what is the meaning, and then they translate it to something that totally doesn't make any sense. That makes sense in the literal translation, but doesn't really give the real translation. But Kese, later on we're going to see that. But Kese means that when there is a covering. Kese comes from the word kisui, which means there is something that is covered. Leyom Chagenu. So we know that the verse in Psalm that Rabbi Yitzchak is now quoting speaks about that there is an action that is the blowing of the shofar, and we know that the time to blow the shofar, that there is a holiday, that something is covered. That's the meaning of that verse. And he continues as Zakaininu Israel, the Kuchabrichu Kariblon Legabe, like a worthy are Israel that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. And again, this is a code name because it doesn't speak. The Creator, the light, has many names. Each one of them represent a certain revelation of light. So Akadosh Baruch Hu means Ze'er Anpin, exactly. The Holy One, blessed be He, is always, whenever it says the Holy One, blessed be He, is a name that represents Ze'er Anpin. Kariv Lon Legabe, brought them closer to Him. We know that it's not a physical thing. It's the idea of like another code name for Israel is Ze'er Anpin, or a code name for Ze'er Anpin is Israel. So like it's not talking about the people. It's talking about everything here is names that has a certain relevance to what we are going to study. Min kol or min of the Avodah Zarah, from all the other nations that worship idol. Veitrai beon, and he wanted them. Ume'ata rechika kariv lon legabe, and he brought them from afar, closer to him. What does that mean? He brought them from afar. Where did he brought them? Like how far it could be to the Creator to bring something? Like it's like the Creator is everywhere. What does that mean? So when we read the Zohar, for sure we need to have some level of awe, and also like a deeper understanding of like there's nothing that the Zohar speaks about the physical reality. Rav Ashlag, one of the rules that Rav Ashlag teaches us when before we enter the Zohar, is the idea that the Zohar never speaks about anything physical. Everything that the Zohar speaks about is only from the world of the soul, from a spiritual sense or spiritual aspect. And what is the proof of Rabbi Yitzchak that the Creator brought Israel from afar? הדה הוא דכתיב, ויאמר יהושע אל כל העם, כה אמר השם אלוקי ישראל. So he bring a verse from Joshua, and Joshua speaks to all the people. They just came out of Egypt, and they just crossed the desert and entered to Israel. כה אמר השם אלוקי ישראל, he bring them the words of God, and he says, בעבר הנהר ישבו אבותיכם מעולם. Your forefathers came from the other side of the river. Always. What does that mean? Always. Like again, when you translate the biblical Hebrew into like any other language, you have to miss something in translation, because every word is a concept. You cannot translate one to one. And when you translate one to one, you can see the ridiculousness of the translation. It doesn't make any sense. Le'achzah, Rabbi Yitzchak continued to show us what it shows us. What is that verse show us? Deha me'ata rechika itrae behu vekarev lon legabe. That he brought them from a far place, and he brought them closer to him. Because it says, Be'ever anahar, on the other side, from that verse, Rabbi Yitzchak is teaching us, Me'ever anahar yashvu avotechem. Uchtiv, and he brings another verse, Vayikach et avichem et Avraham me'ever anahar. And then he brings like a verse that speaks specifically about Abraham. In the beginning, it says, the verse speaks about all the forefathers or the patriarch. It says avotechem in general, and then he goes specifically and he says, I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river, which that a little bit make more sense, because Abraham actually was living on the other side of the river, which the river is Prat. When it says the river in the Torah, it speaks about a specific river. So technically, Abraham came from a place that was on the other, that there was a river between where Abraham was, to Israel, we're going to use
There we go.
oh,
Oh, perfect. Just goes to continue.
It's working. It's working.
working. So, oh, we can see who joined. Hi, everyone. Exciting revelation. So, in the beginning, that's myself. So, in the beginning, the verse speaks about generally about the forefathers or the patriarchs that were living on the other side of the river, which we know only Abraham. If we take Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were born in Israel. So God didn't need to take them from the other side of the river to bring them to Israel. So the verse even more not making sense. And later on, it brings another verse that speaks specifically about bringing Abraham from the other side of the river. And what does that mean, the other side of the river? Like, what kind of description is the other side of the river? What the other side of the river means? And then Rabbi Yitzchak now tells us, Hanekrai, those verses, it listakla behu. We should look at them, which means we should study them. Because it doesn't, like, there is a literal translation or meaning to it, but in the end of the day, there is a much, much hidden understanding to it, and without the hidden understanding, we won't really benefit from the information. We know that information, knowledge is connection. Any connection we would like to make is based on knowledge. So as much as we understand, and that's why we having this study, as much as we understand, we can actually really make a connection. And Rabbi Yitzchak is asking, וכי כל ישראל לא אהב ידעי, וכל שכן יהושע. Like what? The Israelites didn't know that their father came from the other side of the river. All this information is like, Joshua is like, what, Joshua didn't know that? Like, what's that? What God tell them, ויקח את אביכם אברהם מעבר לנהר. What, they didn't know that? This is their tradition. This is their heritage. Like, probably everyone that lives in the United States know a little bit about, the history, Abraham Lincoln and all kind of things. People that live in Israel knows about David Ben Gurion, hopefully. And, like people that live in France, they know about Charles de Gaulle. They know about, like, Louis XIV, they know about, if you does no bread, eat cookies, They know about all these things, you learn history. What? Yeah. No, I said cookies for our friend John, that is not here. He will, if he's watching us, he know what we are, why. So that's an information that it's known. What is like, why the repetition and why the details about it. So here we are starting, and this is like a very, very important, like to understand that it's really like we are living in time, and this is something that Michael said a few times, and if you think about it, we are living in a time that we have a merit, for whatever reason, that it's all explained. It's all translated and explained throughout from Rav Ashlag and through Rav Weinman and through the Rav Keren and the work the center does, that everything is out there. It's like whatever left for us is to study. It's like to take the opportunities that we have and to study, because the study is what makes the connection. If we go few generations ago, before, like for example, the Rav Ashlag translation on the Zohar, it would be like really difficult, if not impossible, to understand what the Zohar speaks about. Because the Zohar speaks about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all kind of like, again, like going into like a describing of like, speaks about this river that the Creator took Abraham, and what does that mean? And not really like really giving us understanding. It just, as we saw, Rabbi Yitzchak is bringing up a question. He quotes few verses, and he bring up some question, and it looks like that there is a beginning of understanding. Again, if you read just the translation, and some of Rav Ashlag explanation is translated, only some, just to give a little bit sense to what it speaks there. But Rav Ashlag did such an amazing job that beside the translation to Hebrew, he gave like an extra explanation here that without that, even when you read the Ari, you cannot really understand, because the Ari explained to a certain degree. Like the Ari is like explaining only some of that section, and actually Rav Ashlag is the one that opened it fully for everyone to understand. So in order to understand that section, and you can go home later on and read that, there's few basic concepts in Kabbalah that in order to understand, again, there's no fully understanding ever. Thank God, because when we fully understand, there's nothing for us to do here. So there's always another layer and another aspect of learning and study that we can have. We have to understand few concepts that are basics in the wisdom of Kabbalah. In the classes, we study about the concept that's called Tzimtzum. You know, when the light came in the endless world, there was light, endless light, and the light wanted to fulfill the vessel, and the vessel, because of bread of shame, say no, and that's created a Tzimtzum, and also created sometimes we also mention another concept that's called Masach, and there was the reason, or the beginning of the creation of our world, and then we skip the entire process, and we go to talk about all kind of other aspects, because at the center, mostly we try to focus on the practicality of the study, and not just to study for the sake of study. But the study itself, first of all, has a very important significance and meaning, because all the words that we are using, you know, the Zeranpin, Atika, all those words are part of our spiritual experience. Those are words that our soul getting life and is nourished by. So even when we study, and that's why we say, you know, a person should read the Zohar, or scan the Zohar, or study even without understanding. Because there is an aspect, Rav Ashlag explained, that the wisdom of Kabbalah is different than any other wisdom, because yes, it gives you knowledge that you can use practically to benefit your life, like mathematics or biology or any other wisdom that there is out there. But there is another aspect to the wisdom of Kabbalah, that it takes away your tikkun. Through the study, the challenges and the difficulties and your tikkun there is a concept called zakut. There is a purity. There is a certain process of removal of negativity from our life. That is, it doesn't matter how much mathematics you're going to study, or biology, or chemistry, or any other wisdom. They're not going to take away from the difficulties that you have in your life, or the challenges you have. Yeah, they're going to make you a microwave, which is going to short the process but it's going to bring with it, radiation issues and etc. Right? There is the advantage of the wisdom of Kabbalah on any other wisdom in the world is that there is an internal process that is done regardless to your level of understanding. When you make an effort to understand, of course, it makes that process even deeper and stronger. So the first concept that we would like to understand is the Tzimtzum, and basically there were two of them, two Tzimtzumim. And in the beginning, the light comes into the vessel, and there is a Tzimtzum. What does that mean, Tzimtzum? Tzimtzum means contraction, that there is, because in the beginning, if we think about like a physical example, when we think about the light, a physical light, as the light will be stronger in this room, our physicality will be diminished. Like right now, because the light is dimmed or diminished to a certain degree, we see every one of us. Every one of us has his own place, and every one of us has his own image, and every one of us has his own place, his uniqueness and individuality. But if the light will be 10 times stronger physically, the bright light that will be in that room will cover that separation that we have, that individuality that exists in each and every one of us. That makes sense? If you take these flowers, by the way, right now closer to one of these light bulb, you're going to see that the leaves that right now we can see very beautifully, individually and separate, that's what makes the flower so beautiful. You're going to see that the flower become like a one thing. It's going to lose its color, it's going to lose the shape of the leaves, and it's going to be like one bright thing, like very, very clear, bright, white thing. That makes sense? So on the same sense, but spiritually, when the endless light revealed itself, it's not that there was no vessel, but the vessel didn't have any existence of itself. So there was no, the Kabbalists explained, Rav Ashlag explained actually, it's like, again, this is something that was revealed only through Rav Ashlag. When Rav Ashlag came to Israel, one of the things that was difficult for him to see, because he was dreaming about, going to the places of all the Kabbalists, all these famous places that he heard when he was living in Poland. And when he came to Israel, he wanted, like, he was so excited about going there. But when he went there, he saw that their understanding is so physical and technical that it was like, that's basically what pushes him to start to explain the teaching through the spiritual aspect of it, to explain all the words and the concept that the Ari, the Zohar speaks about in a spiritual sense. So we are using physicality just to have a certain grasp or understanding, but we need all the time to go to the spiritual meaning of it. When the light revealed itself, and the light and the vessel, as it says in the endless world, they were one. We don't really understand it, how two entities that has opposite desires, or opposite existence can be together, because we know that spiritual distance is measured by similarity in form. Like two people can sit together but they hate each other, right? So we say, oh, they are so far from each other, even though physically they sit in each other. Or two people that love each other and think about each other all the time, they can be in two sides of the world, but they're actually together, right? So spiritual distance, for an example, is measured through similarity in forms. How closer we are. Two people that are Republicans or two people that are Democrats, they are very closer to each other in this time of the year, or right? Because there is a certain subject that could bring them together, even though they are living in two different parts of the United States, and etc. Like to understand that. So it's like a little bit contradicting that concept, but as Rav Ashlag tells us, in the end, that's how it is. This is the only thing that is an axiom in Kabbalah. This is something that we don't understand. It's beyond understanding. And that's the beginning of everything. That's the cause and the beginning of everything. That revelation of light with the existence of the vessel without really any lack or any void. There is a reality, it's called the endless, that even though it seems that it cannot exist, but it is exist. There's no contradiction and there's no limitation, and it's all one. But we are living in the reality after. So there is a concept that the Kabbalah is calling the Tzimtzum. What happened in that Tzimtzum? The light wanted to expand and to reveal itself. And the vessel, part of it at least, wasn't able, because when the light revealed itself, it's diminished that part of the vessel, wasn't able to receive that light. It's like, think about parent that doesn't give space to their kids. They're always there, they always do things for them, they always take care of them. They are enabling the kid to be what he can be or what she can be. They always do things for them, right? So in a sense, the light revealing itself in a vessel, there was an aspect in the vessel that wasn't able to receive that light. Because the purpose of creation was that we will receive all the light, and some of the light wasn't accepted by the vessel. So it started a process, the Tzimtzum started a process of cause and effect, a long and endless process of cause and effect that created a new reality that didn't diminish and didn't erase the former reality. As Rav Ashlag tells us, there's no disappearance in spirituality. Like, for example, in the physical reality, your father is the cause for your existence, right? So if God forbid any one of us lost their father, we still exist. We're still alive. In a spiritual sense, if the cause disappear, in that sense the father, the son has to disappear also. And because of that, not because of that, part of that understanding is that whenever there is a new reality that comes from an older reality, the older reality is not disappearing, it's still there. So there is a certain process that it's happening that the light wants to reveal itself, because that never changed. The desire to be revealed, the desire of the light, that again, the light does not have desire, but the expression of the light is through desire to be revealed. That's the first revelation of light, is the desire to be revealed, because desire represents lack, and the light does not have any lack or void, so there's no desire. There's no desire in the light to give. The light giving is giving. It's an entity of giving. It's not thinking today, oh, John needs, so I'll give him. It's happening before even John thinks that he needs. Because it's not that, but from our point of view, it's happened in a process. We desire something, and then it's appearing in our life. That's how we see it. But from the light point of view, it's already there, because that's what the light is. So the first revelation from our point of view, from the vessel point of view, is the desire for the light to be revealed. So that desire is constantly and never diminished, constantly try to be revealed. So every interaction from now on in that part of the process will always result with light wants to be revealed and vessel that doesn't want to receive. Does that make sense? So we have two forces right now that are contradicting each other. One wants to be revealed, and one doesn't want to receive. That collision that it's happening again, it's like it creates a new realities, new worlds. Because in the end of the day, the light has to be revealed, and the vessel that was created to receive will receive. So in the beginning of the process, there is a world that's called Adam Kadmon. If you don't remember the names, it's something that takes a little bit time to remember. It's not a must to remember it. It's just important to remember that the general understanding of the process, because when we blow the shofar, it's activate those forces. It activates again those processes that happen in the spiritual reality. As we said, it didn't happen in the past. Spirituality does no time. So the process that we are talking about it right now, the creation of the world and etc., it's not something that happened 6,000 years ago or 15 billion years ago. It's something that is happening every moment in our life, and more specifically in certain, there is an access to those processes in certain time in the year. In Rosh Hashanah, there is an access to the most important part of the process. So we want to know what part of the process we're accessing in Rosh Hashanah. So when we blow the shofar, the technical blowing of the shofar will do the act that it's supposed to do in order to get a greater benefit that we can get from it. So the first interaction of light and vessel create a reality that's called Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is a reality that the Kabbalah is saying that has a shape of a human being, and that one, not shape, physical shape, but he has a head, and he has a body, and he has legs, not physical, but exactly like the physical part in our body, those parts function in that world, in that reality that's called Adam Kadmon. For example, our head is where everything is planned, and everything starts, and everything begins, right? So the same thing is the cause, is the root for everything that we do. You know, my hand goes up and down, as there are a favorite example, is because my brain function, my head function. Thank God if someone, their head does not function, their body is not going to function, right? There's going to be some challenges and difficulties and delays in the function of their body. So it's the same thing, like when we talk about the head of that reality, we're talking about where everything is planned and start and rooted. When we talk about the body, our body is that part that basically does or acts. And when we talk about the legs, is what actually hold the entire body, the entire process that is happening, and etc. So all these organs that we are mentioning, the eyes and the ears and the nose and the mouth, all of them, when we read in the writings of the Kabbalists, specifically of the Ari, they are representing the idea behind that organ. For example, the organ of the ear is bringing in information, right? The eyes has a certain connection with reality. There is information that gets in, but there's no information that goes out. It looks like there's no information that goes out, but there is. There is a certain light that goes in and out. The nose is in a certain shape and function in a certain way. Is lower, is in the same height of the ear, but a little bit lower than them, because it represents a different understanding or a different concept and etc. So in that reality of Adam Kadmon, the Ari is telling us that after the first Tzimtzum, now the light can be revealed only to a certain degree. The light is not revealed fully. And therefore the light has to continue and to continue to push and to try to be revealed in a way. So every collision between the light and the vessel creates a new reality. Now, in that collision, in the same time that the light collides with the vessel, what happened to the vessel, it's becoming, there's less resistance. It's like anything physical. You know, when you try to make a hole in the wall, the first hit of the hammer won't do anything. But slowly but surely, every time that you hit the wall, there is a certain diminishing of the resistance of the wall, and eventually the hammer will make a hole in the wall. Make sense? So that resistance of the vessel, on a spiritual sense, works differently. Because when the vessels say, I don't want to receive, the vessel actually goes out of the game. He doesn't play. Say, I'm not playing. Light you want to give me, I don't want to receive. I'm not playing, I'm going out. And instead of that vessel, what we are dealing with, there's no receiving, we are dealing with the resistance of the vessel. Now the new vessel is the resistance of the vessel. So now the interaction of the light is not with the vessel anymore. There's no interaction of light with vessel. There is interaction of the light with that resistance. That resistance called masach, curtain. So masach represent, whenever we're going to talk about masach, because a very important component, a very important ingredient that we are activating in the blowing of the shofar called masach dechirik, which is, we're going to talk about it when we're going to get there. But in order to understand masach dechirik, we need to understand the spiritual essence of masach. What is a curtain? Let's say in a physical reality, when you put a curtain on the window, what actually happened?
Stop the light.
It doesn't stop the light.
Reduce it.
Diminishes the light.
Now the light that enters to the room is less, right? There's always light going through the curtain, even in the hotel that you have this very thick and heavy curtain to block the light of the sun. There's always some of that light that goes through, right? But our concern with that, it's not the physical. And again, that's why those, yes. When we talk about those physical things, we need always to remember that our perception of physicality is a little bit limited and never gives us the entire understanding of the spiritual meaning of it. And we need to be careful about it, because Rav Ashlag is very clear about it. He recited over and over and over and over to remember that all those physical things that we are talking about, they are not physical. They are spiritual. So a curtain, and again this is very important for us for later on, a curtain means the resistant force, which means right now is representing a force of judgment. Before that, the energy that was ruling any reality was energy of mercy, giving, sharing. With the creation of the masach, with the resistance of the vessel that created the masach, it created a new reality. It created a new reality that's called judgment. Before that, so the root or the cause for judgment is chesed, is mercy. Mercy created judgment. Now this judgment is in its very, very beginning root. So it's not judgment as we understand judgment, because the word for judgment is gvura, which also comes from the word strength. So right now we are dealing with the strength or with the resistant aspect of the masach. So the masach right now is representing for us a force of resistance that express a certain element of judgment. Now, every time there is interaction between light and a curtain, what also happened, guys, on a physical reality? There is a reflection back of that light. Every curtain reflects back the light. You see that table right now? There is a light that comes from above, and the table, wherever the light hit the table, there is a reflection of that light into back, and it's a new light. It's called Or Choser, returning light. Those are the things that you study for sure in 10 luminous classes and other classes. And that Or Choser, even though it represents the sharing aspect of the vessel, because like this is it looks like the vessel is now sharing light, right? Whenever there is light comes to the vessel and the vessel resists it, what actually the vessel does, the vessel shares it back. Even though it's, from a physical point of view, it looks like a sharing aspect, we don't deal with physicality. We deal with spirituality, and because the cause of that light is the resistance of the Masach, it's going to be a light of judgment. So returning light, the direct light, from our point of view of vessel, it's too much for us. It's judgment, I don't want it. And the returning light, from our point of view, look like sharing. But on a spiritual sense, it's totally the opposite. And the reason why it's important, because coming to Rosh Hashanah, as the Ari says, as the Zohar says, it's day of judgment. There's no mercy in Rosh Hashanah. The Rav was... if you have an option to listen to the Rav classes about Rosh Hashanah, there's many of them, but even just some of it, the Rav repeats that idea all the time. The Rav says, if someone comes to Rosh Hashanah and look for mercy, he's not going to find it. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's all about judgment. It's a day of judgment. It's not a traditional name for Rosh Hashanah. It's a day of judgment, it's Yom Adin. It's a day that the aspect of judgment appear in our reality, which is very important aspect in our life. But when it comes that the word that the Rav used, harnessed, when it's not controlled, harnessed, then it's appear in a negative way in our life. But if we know how to harness, and that's what the binding of Isaac later on that the Zohar speaks about, and in the section of Vayikra that the Zohar speaks about the blowing of the shofar. The whole idea, the entire day, is the binding of Isaac. What does that mean? Harnessing the judgment. So we have to understand, in order to, again, to access to that reality that activates everything that's happened in Rosh Hashanah and benefit us, we have to know as much as possible about what is happening there and what are the forces that we are actually dealing with. And we're dealing with force that's called judgment, and that's why we are going backward to the beginning of the process to understand where and how the revelation of judgment appear in our life. Therefore, so there's few things that are happening in that collision of light with the Masach. There is a reflection or deflecting of light. And there is another thing that happened, that we say that when the light beat or hit the Masach or collide with the Masach is becoming, there's less and less resistance. So if there's less resistance with the Masach, there is less light that the Masach can deflect. So in the beginning, the full deflection, the full ability to deflect light, created a certain amount of returning light. And in the second time, when the light comes down and hit the Masach, or collide with the Masach, there is less light that is deflected because the Masach is less resisting. Does that make sense? The Kabbalah is telling us, and actually Rav Ashlag, again, it's like more revelation of Rav Ashlag. It's like, Kabbalists before Rav Ashlag didn't know that, or maybe they knew but they didn't really understand it to the fully. There are 5 times, there are 5 revelations of light that creating 5 realities. We know Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, Zeir Anpin, and Malchut. So every time that the light comes down, again, coming down not in a physical sense, spiritual sense, coming down means that revealed itself. Revelation is already a lower aspect of the light itself, so it represents by down. And hit the Masach, collide with the Masach, there is a relationship between the resistance of the Masach and the light. There is a light that is revealed, so a new reality is created. Revelation of light means new reality is created. But in the same sense, the Masach loses its resistance to a certain degree. So in the beginning, the revelation of light that is created is called Keter, and the Masach loses one aspect of resistance. And then the second one is Chokhmah, and then the third one is Bina, the fourth one is Zeir Anpin, and the last one is Malchut. Does that make sense until now, or you have any question about it? Good. Some heads on nodding down on it because they're falling asleep or because they say yes.
Well, I have one question.
Yes, Abraham.
Okay, so when you say like, you're talking about the world of Adam Kadmon,
Yeah.
is that a world like, you know, like Olam Asiyah, Olam Yetzirah, or it's a different type of world?
It's a reality that basically encapsulates everything. So when from that reality, everything is enveloping. Like Adam Kadmon is like the root and the cause of everything that comes later on. Is the first reality, is the first revelation, is the first ability of the vessel to reveal the light. Now it's like if you take for an example iPhone 7. Without iPhone 1, iPhone 7 cannot exist. iPhone 7 is based on the study and the understanding of the engineers of Apple when they created iPhone 1. Does that make sense? Yeah. So iPhone 1, if give me the phone for an example, just that this is iPhone 6. 5. Oh, yo. Sorry. Very old. So if we think about this phone right now, it's enveloping, it's envelope, iPhone 1 inside it. If we like tear apart, not physically of course, but if we tear apart the process that phone, that iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, doesn't really matter, is now, if we take the process that from the beginning that it started, we're going to find iPhone 1 there. In the beginning of the process, we're going to find, you know, the green screen that the thing was blinking there, blank, and you like play Atari and you play, you know, all these old games that we played in the 80s, right? Everything is there. It's there, you know? So Adam Kadmon is like Atari. Oh, no, of course it's not. No, it's actually, it's a computer, like the assembly is the first computer software,
Yeah.
right? Assembly.
Assembly language, yeah.
So nobody uses it anymore, right?
Well, no, some people have to use it.
Yeah, they love to use it just for the fun maybe or whatever, but it's like you have already like computer programming software that are much easy to use. So Adam Kadmon, we don't really have access to it anymore. We never have access to it, but it's always there. It's like the basic programming software of our reality. It's like the first revelation of light in its full capacity.
Like a foundation.
But we don't have access to it, so it doesn't mean that we receive the light yet. So there has to be more revelation after that. Like iPhone 5 does not reveal all the abilities of iPhone, but it's contained inside it potentially iPhone 5 and iPhone 6 and iPhone 7, and every time there's going to be a new revelation of abilities, they already encapsulate in iPhone 1. Does that make sense? So Adam Kadmon encapsulate in it the entire ability of the vessel to receive. But from the vessel point of view, it's just in a potential. So there has to be more revelation that's coming from it. Okay? So that's basically, and again, I'm not going to go through the entire explanation of ten lumination of what happened in every in every sense. But when we talk, when you go to the Zohar, so that's the beginning of the revelation, and that's the beginning of revelation of judgment. So judgment, we need to understand it has few aspects. One is resistance, strength. Also, one is diminishing, because again, the results of the relationship between light and vessel, in that sense, diminished the ability of the vessel of the masach to resist. So another aspect of judgment is diminishing. When we say judgment, means less. Mercy means flow and abundance. So when we are going to go deeper and understand Isaac, because Isaac is not a person, or Abraham, when the Zohar speaks about Abraham, I took Abraham from the other side of the river. Why only Abraham? What does that mean, the other side of the river? What is that river that we are talking here about? When we're going to talk about the next revelation of light, because again, in order for the light to give space for the vessel to exist, one of the things that the light does, the light creates distance. Now, distance in a spiritual sense is not like, again, in a physical sense, as more as that light goes away, there's more space for the details of the individual to be revealed. So more of the vessel is revealed. So there's more aspect of receiving in the vessel are revealing, because if you look at that flower, the flower revealed what it receives. So the flower received from the ground the mineral and the nourishment and the light, and the flower received from the sun colors and all kind of things. So when we look at that flower right now, what we see the capacity of that vessel, that called flower, to receive. What is the flower? How the flower is revealed to us? To its ability to receive. Does that make sense? Two people. Again, when we look at a flower, and it doesn't matter, it could be anything else. The way that the flower is revealed to us, to the details, is through whatever the flower was able to receive. If that flower wasn't able to receive, let's say, oxygen, the revelation of that flower is not going to be the same as a flower that receives oxygen. Make sense? So everything that we are exposed to that flower, that flower exposing to us, is the exposure of that flower to us is based on its ability to receive. So, as we see in the physicality, the distance that the physical light has from that flower to a certain degree, because too much distance will create darkness, so it's also going to diminish the vessel. Too much closeness of the light to that flower will also diminish the flower. You're going to see only white thing, bright white thing. So there has to be a certain distance. You know, people that their job is like events and etc. And they're calculating the amount of light and the direction of light and everything. So you're going to see that object, you know, in museums and etc. You see that object in its full capacity. So throughout the process of the light coming closer and going away, the vessel and the light coming to a certain existence, that the light can be revealed in the vessel, and on the other hand, the vessel can have his own existence and his own individuality. Does that make sense? So that process, and when you study 10 luminous emanation, we study to the details whatever is happening through that process, because again, we're not talking about physical distance. And even if in a physical sense, it takes some time to measure the light, and you know, even like photographer coming to your face with some measurement, and they measuring something, and they go into the camera and they're fixing the opening of the exposure of the camera, and the length and the time that it's open, and etc. And based on that, you're going to have the best picture, right? Yes.
So I have a question. So I'm looking at the flower and I'm seeing the detail of the flower.
Yes.
But it could be a different detail of the flower than when you look at the flower.
Of course.
So it's also the capacity of my vessel to receive as an individual vessel, as well as on a spiritual
Yes,
level.
because you are a different vessel, and your ability to receive is different, and your quality and quantity of receiving is different, and therefore everything that you are going to be exposed to, it's going to be totally different than any other individual. Every individual in this world has a different capacity, quality and quantity to receive. Not everyone would have a yellow Porsche. If everyone would have yellow Porsche, it would be very boring. Even though every one of us in that room would love to have a yellow Porsche, right? But in the end of the day, our vessel to receive will choose a blue Subaru. Right, Doron? And only if someone really, really will push us, we'll change it to BMW. But we really, really want a Subaru, some of us, right? Because we have a different vessel to receive. Okay? So, when we read the section in the Zohar, just to have a heads up, because next time we are going to use the books. Abraham means right column energy, Isaac means left column energy, Jacob means central column energy, for center column energy for those of not central. Center column energy, it's also the central, but it's the center column energy of a system that it's not revealed yet in the process. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob coming into existence only later on in the process, and that's why the biblical story doesn't start with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like if the Bible was about history, the Bible would start with Mayflower. Mayflower?
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't start, a history book does not start with the Big Bang. They start with the beginning of our history. The same thing with the Bible. The Bible is not a history book, it's not a moral book. It's teaching us in a coded way how this universe operates. Through the Zohar and through the Ari and through Rav Ashlag and through our teachers, the Rav and Keren, and the teaching of the center, we are opening it, and we have an amazing, again, like the biggest opportunity that we have to access and shift for the good things in our life. So when we read that section in the Zohar, again, only part of it is translation, so don't be disappointed or upset. Just try to pay attention to how the words that the Zohar use, what is Nahar, because Nahar is Binah, and what is Abraham, and what is Isaac, and what is Jacob, and what is the head of Abraham, the head of Isaac, the head of Jacob, which is totally different things. Because everything here is like a beautiful, beautiful structure, like your iPhone. There is this beautiful structure there, and because of that, we are able to do so many things, like that's live streaming and many, many other things, because there is a beautiful internal structure there. So next time, please bring with yourself a more volume 16, and we're going to go into the more detailed explanation that Rav Ashlag is teaching us about that reality that's called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and how they interact with each other through that having like a greater and a deeper understanding of the blowing of the shofar. Thank you, and see you on Monday.